Maybe I would,
she answered.
What's your name?
She asked then, stalling for time while she gathered her courage to go after the bee.
Frances Catherine. What's yours? Judith. How come you have two full names? I've never heard of anyone having more than one. Everybody always asks me that,
Frances Catherine said. She let out a dramatic sigh.
Frances was my mamma's name. She died birthing me. Catherine's my grandmamma's name, and she died just the same way. They couldn't be buried in the sacred ground, 'cause the church said they weren't clean. Papa's hoping I'll start in behaving, and then I'll get to heaven, and when God hears my two names, he'll remember Mama and Grandma. Why did the church say they weren't clean? 'Cause they were birthing when they died,
Frances Catherine explained.
Don't you know anything, girl? I know some things. I know just about everything,
Frances Catherine boasted.
Leastways, Papa says I surely think I do. I even know how babies get into the mama's stomachs. Want to hear? Oh, yes. Once they get married, the papa spits into his goblet of wine, and then he makes the mama take a big drink. As soon as she swallows, she's got a baby in her stomach.
Judith made a grimace over that thrillingly disgusting information. She was going to beg her friend to tell her more, when Frances Catherine suddenly let out a loud whimper. Judith leaned closer. Then she let out a whimper too. The bee had settled on the tip of her friend's shoe. The longer Judith stared at it, the bigger it seemed to grow. The talk about birthing was immediately put aside.
Are you going to swat it away?
Frances Catherine asked.
I'm getting ready to. Are you afraid? No,
Judith lied.
I'm not afraid of anything. I didn't think you were either. Why didn't you? Because you didn't cry when your papa smacked you,
Judith explained.
That's because he didn't smack me hard,
Frances Catherine explained.
Papa never does. It pains him more than me, too. Leastways, that's what Gavin and Kevin say. Papa's got his hands full with me, they say, and ruining me for good for some pitiful man I got to marry when I'm all grown up, because Papa pampers me. Who are Gavin and Kevin? Half my brothers,
Frances Catherine explained.
Papa's their papa too, but they had a different mama. She died. Did she die birthing them? No. Then why did she die? She just got tucked out,
Frances Catherine explained.
Papa told me so. I'm closing my eyes real tight now if you want to swat the bee.
Because Judith was so determined to impress her new friend, she didn't think about the consequences any longer. She reached out to slap the bee, but as soon as she felt the flutter of its wings against the palm of her hand, it tickled her so she instinctively closed her fingers. Then she started wailing. Frances Catherine bounded off the rock to help the only way she knew how. She started wailing too. Judith ran around and around the rock, screaming so vigorously she could barely catch her breath. Her friend chased after her, screaming just as fiercely, though in sympathy and fear rather than in pain. Frances Catherine's papa came running across the field. He caught hold of his daughter first, and when she'd stammered out her problem, he chased down Judith. In a matter of minutes, the two little girls had been properly soothed. The stinger had been removed from the palm of Judith's hand, and cool, wet mud applied. Her friend's papa gently mopped away her tears with the edge of his woolen plaid. He sat on the punishment rock now, with his daughter cuddled up on one side of his lap, and Judith cuddled up on the other. She'd never had anyone make such a fuss over her before. Judith turned quite shy because of all the attention she was getting. She didn't turn away from the comfort, though, and in fact edged a little closer to get even more.
"You two are a sorry pair,"
the papa announced when they'd quit their hiccuping and could hear him.
"Screaming louder than the trumpet sounding the caber toss you were, and running in circles like hens with your heads cut off."
Judith didn't know if the papa was angry or not. His voice had been gruff, but he wasn't frowning. Frances Catherine giggled. Judith decided her friend's papa must have been jesting after all.
It was paining her considerably, Papa,
Frances